Hi, I'm Linda, and this is Beautiful Thrift Homemaking, where we're reading through a vintage cookbook from 1917. It's called A Thousand Ways to Please a Husband. And as I said, it is a cookbook. However, it's also an instructional novel, which makes it very interesting because it's a story of a young couple. They are newlyweds, and Bettina, the bride, has gotten married in June, and the cookbook is going to go through one entire calendar year, that 1 year from June all the way through the next May, and there are quite a few chapters. So I'm working my way through chapter by chapter. I started posting one chapter with each video because I wanted my videos to be short enough not to get people wanting to click away, right? But then I realized that we needed to move on a little bit better. And so I started trying 2 chapters and 3 chapters at a time. I'm not sure what you like best. So if you are following along and have been enjoying the stories, if you think it would be better if I change the formatting some, just let me know in the comments, please, because I would appreciate any kind suggestions for how I present this. I've been reading 2 or 3 chapters and then commenting on them afterwards. But if you want me to comment after each chapter, that would be a change, and I'd be happy to do that for whoever wants to be the one to comment on that. All right, so chapter 22, buying a refrigerator. Something in refrigerators, said the clerk politely to Mrs. Dixon and Bettina. You talk to him, said Mrs. Dixon. I don't know a thing about a refrigerator. That's why I begged you to come. Well, considered Bettina, her red-brown head on one side, we want one that will hold not less than 100 pounds of ice. The large ones are much more economical in the long run. Here, Mrs. Dixon, is 100-pound fellow. May we examine it, please? Certainly, madam. No, this won't do. See, Mrs. Dixon, the trap is in the bottom of the food chamber. That is wasteful and inconvenient, because in cleaning it, you would have to leave the door of the larger compartment open. That would let the cold air out and waste the ice. Anyhow, you know the trap is the sewer of the refrigerator. The trap is the sewer of the refrigerator and has no business in the food chamber. The trap really ought to be in the bottom of the ice chamber, where it can be cleaned without removing the food or opening the door of the food compartment. Besides, I prefer to have the ice put in at a door on the side of the front, not on the top. Yes, here's that kind I mean. I like this trap too. See, Mrs. Dixon, isn't it fine? It has a white enamel lining and shelves of open wire that can be removed. It looks nice, doesn't it? And when I get some white shelf paper on those shelves, it will be like an attractive cupboard. Oh, my dear, you mustn't do that. That would prevent the circulation of air through the icebox, which is the very thing that makes the food compartment cold. You see, that circulation of air goes on through these open wire shelves. Another thing, I've seen people cover the ice with newspapers to keep it from melting, as they thought, but they were mistaken. Any friction causes warmth, and ice keeps better when there is nothing touching it. Well, if you like this one, I'll ask the price of it. It will be expensive, I'm afraid, but the most economical in the long run. Are you staying downtown to meet Mr. Dixon? Yes, I'd like him to see the refrigerator. He takes such an interest in these household things I'm getting. Well, goodbye, dear. I must hurry home to get dinner. It won't take long, but I'll have to go, or Bob will get there first, and I'm a little sentimental about being there to greet him at the door. Bettina's dinner that night consisted of broiled lamb chops, boiled new potatoes, new peas in cream, vegetable salad, bread, butter, and rhubarb pudding. And the recipes for this chapter are for broiled lamb chops, creamed new peas, white sauce for the peas. We talked about white sauce in our last video, and rhubarb pudding. Yeah. Okay, chapter 23, Bettina's Sunday Dinner. This seems like old times, remarked Mr. Dixon, as he and his wife strolled leisurely home from church with Bob and Bettina. I haven't had this peaceful Sunday feeling since I was a youngster. Then all the Sundays were like this, cool, quiet, and sunny, sprinkled all over with little girls in smooth curls and white leghorn hats, and little boys in uncomfortable hot clothes a size too large and newly polished shoes. I often recall the plentiful Sunday dinners, too. Don't get your hopes too high, said Bettina, though I will promise you one treat, wild roses on the table. Bob and I walked out into the country last evening and found them. What can I do? Inquired Mrs. Dixon when she and Bettina were alone in the kitchen. You can sit here and talk to me while these potatoes are cooking and the veal birds getting done. You see, the birds have already cooked 3/4 of an hour this morning before I went to church. The waxed beans are in the fireless cooker. I have to make the butter sauce for them. And you see I have the new potatoes all prepared, standing in cold water. I have only to cook them in boiling salted water till they are done. That won't take long, as they aren't large. I set the table on the porch this morning. Bob can make the coffee in the percolator in a little while when we're ready. He usually starts it when we come to the table, and then it is ready in time to serve last. By the way, if you like the Thousand Island dressing we are to have for the head lettuce, I'd like to give you the recipe. It is a very popular one just now. Oh, I've eaten it. Frank is very fond of it and used to order it every chance he had at the hotel. Will you really tell me how to make it? So many good dinners now end with the salad and cheese and coffee, and I think Thousand Island dressing on head lettuce makes a splendid salad. Of course I'll show you. Well, the iced cantaloupe, which is our first course, is in the icebox. Our dessert today is just cake with chocolate cream frosting and coffee. It is such a simple Sunday dinner, but that's the kind I believe in. And Bettina's Sunday dinner was iced cantaloupe, veal birds, boiled new potatoes, gravy, waxed beans, butter sauce, bread, butter, head lettuce, Thousand Island dressing, salt wafers, cake with chocolate cream frosting, and coffee. And in this cookbook, the recipe is given for what she calls veal birds, which I think is related to the shape that she cooks the veal in, or the way that it's formed. And then Thousand Island salad dressing, cake with chocolate cream filling, and confectioner's icing to be on top of that cake. So those are the recipes for this chapter. Chapter 24. Bettina visits a tea room. Aren't you a bit timid about driving? Asked Bettina as she stepped into the car beside Mrs. Dixon. Not now. You see, I've been practicing every evening with Frank, and he says that I am as good a driver as he is. Oh, Bettina, we are having so much fun these days. The little house is a great success, and I'm really learning to cook. I've had some dreadful failures, but Frank doesn't seem to mind. You see, I know he gets a good meal downtown at noon, and so I don't worry about him. Look, Charlotte, what lovely goldenrod. We must stop and get some. Don't you love it? Indeed I do. I have a rough brown waste paper basket that it looks stunning in. I set the jar of goldenrod right inside. Frank is very fond of it. Charlotte, you're just like a bride yourself, thinking about Frank's likes and dislikes. Am I? Laughed Mrs. Dixon as her color rose. Well, lately Frank seems just like his old self. He appreciates everything so, and is so nice at home, and it seems that he can hardly get home quickly enough. We have enjoyed getting things settled and planning our future. Next year we may build a house of our own, but I don't care to have it too large to manage easily. Are you going to stop here? Asked Bettina as Mrs. Dixon slowed down after a peaceful stretch of level road. Yes, I want to show you something. A short path led to a small house close to the road, but almost hidden in a tangle of flowers and wild grapevines. Isn't this a cunning little rustic place? Asked Charlotte. Two friends of mine started it. See? Pointing to the sign over the door. It's called The Friendly Inn. Inside you'll find that quotation about living in a house at the side of the road and being a friend to every man. You know the one. These girls live on that farm over there. When they came home from college, they wanted something to do, some way to earn money, but they didn't care to leave home. This is such a splendid road that the autos swarm past all summer long. These girls opened this little tea room and serve luncheon and tea here all summer. Most of their supplies come directly from the farm. It is just a pleasant drive from the city, and many people like to come out here in the afternoon. I'll introduce you to the girls. Bettina found the innkeepers charming, and after a short conversation, she and Mrs. Dixon ordered tomato cup salad, iced tea, bread and butter sandwiches, vanilla ice cream, chocolate sauce, marshmallow cakes. And we have some recipes from the food that she got at the Friendly Inn. She has the recipe for the tomato cup salad, the chocolate sauce for the ice cream, and the marshmallow cake instructions. Okay, so that's it for our reading of 3 chapters for this session, and I'll talk about them in depth. Thank you. All right, now for our dive into chapters 22, 23, and 24. Puddings were mentioned, and puddings were cooked in a mold, which, as you probably know, a little dish, and sometimes it's decorative and has grooves in it. I think about the bundt pan being like a large mold for a bundt cake. So if you're familiar with that, if you can picture the smaller ones, oftentimes you see them in thrift stores made of copper, and sometimes people think of them as Jello molds. There's also molds made of tin back in this day, and nowadays we have some that are, stick proof and so forth. So puddings were made in molds and then turned upside down, and the mold was released, and you had this nice little shaped mound. And oftentimes then you could pour icing over it and let it drip down, and that kind of gives a very beautiful appearance then for that dessert. I read that puddings are, in this case, these types of puddings are more of a cake, but instead of being baked, it's steamed for a very long time. I'm talking an hour and a half to 4 hours, depending on the recipe and the era, really. In the old times, puddings were steamed for a very, very long time. So it's steaming involves putting the mold down into a water bath, and the mold had a lid on it that closed up so that the moisture was held inside the pan, the mold. And so, wow, that is different, isn't it? And then she also sometimes mentions something called a gem pan, GEM, gem pan. Gem pans, I looked that up, and it's for cakes. They were for cakes, and they're like a mini loaf pan, and they were often made of cast iron. So gem pans were like mini M-I-N-I, mini loaf pans. All right, so if we come across those words again, we'll understand a little bit more, and we'll understand a little bit more about what a pudding is. She has rhubarb pudding this time. And peas in white sauce. So again, another use for the white sauce. That's a coveted skill in 1917 to make a white sauce and serve your foods covered in the white sauce. She went shopping for a refrigerator with Mrs. Dixon, and also was called an ice box because this is the type that it was back then. And notice Bettina's approach is that she is very careful to consider the features of each of the appliances. And she finds one that she doesn't like because it's too hard to clean. And that's something we can apply when we approach the purchase of an appliance. I think of a vacuum cleaner. There's so many different ways that filters are, or no filters and so forth. How are they cleaned, right? And so that should be a consideration, particularly I think with a vacuum cleaner. In this case, though, she was looking for one that was easy to clean and that kept the circulation of air, of cold air, moving throughout the appliance and didn't cause energy loss by having the door open while you're cleaning, right? So that was chapter 22. In chapter 23, we have her preparing a Sunday dinner ahead of time. I love that. And she had, in fact, even thought ahead and got some wild roses from a walk that she went on and put those on the table. Doesn't that sound lovely? I just love roses and wild roses, and I don't have any rose bushes in my yard. I did at one time when I first moved here. They didn't survive, probably because we had done some other work around them, and they like sunshine. Thousand Island dressing. Wow. So that goes back a while, doesn't it? And I wanted to share the recipe with you. I'm just going to read it for you in case you're interested in giving it a try at home. This recipe is said to make 6 portions. It calls for a half a cup of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of orange juice, 1 teaspoon of onion juice, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, 1/4 teaspoon of mustard, and 1 teaspoon of chopped parsley. Place all the above ingredients in a pint fruit jar. Fit a rubber on the jar cover and shake vigorously until the dressing is well mixed and creamy. Pour over tomatoes, asparagus, peas, beans, spinach, or lettuce. Serve as a salad. Okay, so a simple salad then in 1917 could be just having some vegetable covered in some Thousand Island sauce. All right, I'm going to give those to you again in case you were trying to write it down. So we have the ingredients are olive oil, lemon juice, orange juice, onion juice, salt, paprika, Worcestershire sauce, mustard, and chopped parsley. And I would be I'm pretty sure that the mustard is dried powdered mustard, not prepared mustard, which is the condiment we put on hot dogs. Okay, so the amounts: half a cup olive oil, 2 tablespoons lemon juice, 2 tablespoons orange juice, 1 teaspoon onion juice, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, 1 teaspoon Worcestershire sauce, 1/4 teaspoon dry mustard, 1 teaspoon chopped parsley. All right, shake it all together vigorously until it's well mixed and creamy, and then pour it over your salad. So that is the Thousand Island dressing recipe from this cookbook from 1917. Now we have also the idea of ending a meal with a green salad that was mentioned. I will say that it is thought that starting a meal with a green salad has digestive benefits, particularly if you squeeze a little lemon juice over it. Then that lemon can help stimulate the stomach acid for digestion for the rest of the meal, and help, and the fiber helps you feel full if you have a salad before the main course, the fiber from the salad can help you have a sense of satiety, and then maybe you won't eat as much or ask for seconds. So that's a good tip. Now, chapter 24, I loved. I just could really picture this as such a charming scenario here. Going on a drive with Mrs. Dixon, and now we finally see that Bettina is calling her Charlotte. So Charlotte must be Mrs. Dixon's first name, and they're getting to know each other well enough now that she's feeling comfortable using Mrs. Dixon's first name, which is a nice thing to see their friendship moving along that way. And Mrs. Dixon's driving, and she's confident with her driving. And so where do they go? Mrs. Dixon surprises Bettina by taking her to the Friendly Inn, which is a tea room. And it's in a small roadside house. Isn't this charming? It's hidden in a tangle of flowers and wild grapevines. Okay, it sounds so quaint. And just a second, I remember that I am to remind you to stay hydrated. So be sure to get a drink and stay hydrated in the summer, especially with the heat we have now in July here in Northern California. So hopefully where you are, you're also enjoying a beautiful summer. And so here we are in summertime at the Friendly Inn having a meal. This inn was started by two college graduates. I believe they must have been sisters, and they wanted to stay living at home on the family farm. And so they wanted to see what they could do to earn money. And so they started this tea room. And I noticed that Mrs. Dixon has a new enthusiasm for life. And that's brought about by her taking a house and becoming a homemaker and learning these new skills. And it's exciting to learn new things, and it does invigorate our lives. So I would really recommend that if you're feeling somewhat stuck or stale, that you try learning something new, and you'll see that it will just spark life into you. And this is what's happening with Mr. and Mrs. Dixon's marriage as well. The new circumstances of life for them, moving from a hotel to a home, and making the home together has brought new life to their marriage. Mrs. Dixon acknowledges that, or shares that, her husband is so eager to come home after work now. He's not dragging his feet about coming home, and she just loves that. And she loves being ready for him when he comes through the door, and treating him to something special. So I noticed that with my husband. He loves to hurry home from work. And so work on making your environment of your home such that your husband and children will want to be home. Here we also have, again, Bettina finding something beautiful for her table. And this time she saw some goldenrod. And she told about a natural kind of a craft paper basket, I think it was, that she put the jar of water with the goldenrod in, and then she put it into this, I imagine it being kind of a brown basket made of paper that she put on the outside of that as a kind of an outer vase. Then marshmallow cake is mentioned, and that is very interesting because I was surprised by that. It's not a marshmallow cake like you might be thinking when you hear of that. It is a regular white cake, and she says to use any white cake recipe and bake it in gem pans. There's the gem pans. So remember, it's like a mini loaf. So you've got a mini loaf cake, or several of them baking. And then once it's cooled, you're going to cover it with your white mountain cream icing, which recipe was given in some other chapters earlier. But just before you put the icing on there, you're going to cut up marshmallows into fourths. And you're going to put them on the cake underneath the frosting. So you have this bump look, this bumpy look to the frosting, and that's called marshmallow cake. So that's very different. I've never heard of that, and I thought that was rather fun to think about. You know, I could imagine it with the white frosting with the bumps underneath, that it could look very feminine and cheerful. Okay, now I want to share one more thing with you, which is exciting to me, and that is the poem. Poet Sam Walter Foss, "The House by the Side of the Road." A stanza was mentioned as being on a plaque that was in the Friendly Inn, and that they took I'm looking for my copy of the poem here that I looked up online. So that part of the story was, inside you'll find that quotation about living in a house at the side of the road and being a friend to every man. You know that one. Okay, so I thought, that sounds slightly familiar, but let me look it up. It was not easy to find. I was misdirected to two other poems before I finally found the one that I believe Mrs. Dixon was referring to, "The House by the Side of the Road." So I'm going to read that poem to you, and it is 5 stanzas, and the theme of the poem is compassion, community, and empathy. So I think that's very fitting, isn't it? "The House by the Side of the Road" by Sam Walter Foss, Foss. There are hermit souls that live withdrawn in the place of their self-content. There are souls like stars that dwell apart in a fellowless firmament. There are pioneer souls that blaze the paths where highways never ran. But let me live by the side of the road and be a friend to man. Let me live in a house by the side of the road where the race of men go by, the men who are good and the men who are bad, as good and as bad as I. I would not sit in the scorner's seat, nor hurl the cynic's ban. Let me live in a house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. I see from my house by the side of the road, by the side of the highway of life, the men who press with the ardor of hope, the men who are faint with the strife. But I turn not away from their smiles and tears, both parts of an infinite plan. Let me live in a house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. I know there are brook-gladdened meadows ahead and mountains of wearisome height, that the road passes on through the long afternoon and stretches away to the night. And still I rejoice when the travelers rejoice, and weep with the strangers that moan, nor live in my house by the side of the road like a man who dwells alone. Let me live in my house by the side of the road where the race of men go by. They are good, they are bad, they are weak, they are strong, wise, foolish, so am I. Then why should I sit in the scorner's seat or hurl the cynic's ban? Let me live in my house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. Right. So, compassion, community, and empathy. And with that, I'll see you next time.